So we'll be looking at comparisons where we will be looking at applying a knowledge of the unit fractions, reasoning about size, exploring relationships and justifying reasoning, which is huge. Now these little tools here, these are called Cuisenaire rods. And these are among my favorite tools to use for kids because they are first not marked, and the kids will have to focus on the size of the part themselves without looking at 1/4 or whatever that marking is on there, because that's what they focus on. They don't focus on it on the sides of the bar. And so I love these for that reason. And there are so many things you can do with the Cuisenaire rod, which is another reason why I was like, okay, that's my tool right there. Okay, so this is what I think a kid should know. If I give him this fraction and place it on the board, my student should be able to tell me what 1/2 is equivalent to 8/8 just by looking at that. You should be able to tell me that the unit fraction is equal to 1/8. 3/8 are 5/8 from a whole. So that's that inverse type of thing there. Well, they don't even have to subtract. If they know the different parts of the fraction, they already know so much about them. They just have to, that has to be pulled out of them. And then the last thing is that 1/2 is equal to 4/8. This again is just really looking at making sure that the kids are able to ground themselves in developing those benchmark fractions. So we're talking about 1 and we're talking about 1/2 all the time here. And so if we use that language in that composition, decomposition, that builds where we don't have to explicitly teach it to them. And so if they know that 1/2 is equal to 4/8, then they know that 3/8 is less than 1/2. And so there you go. They're comparing fractions with unlike denominators, right? So when we are giving the kids the fractions and giving them that opportunity to learn them now, then they have to know something about one fraction before they can compare it to the second fraction, right? So looking at 3/8, we already know all these things about 3/8, but let's also do the same thing with 3/4, because we want to make sure that they're able to tell you about 3/4 and not do all that cross multiplying and the butterflying and all those things, because that again is adding to the misconception that we treat these as whole numbers, and we do not want to do that. All right, so let's see. So 3/4, from this, I know that 1/2 is equivalent to 4/4. I know that the unit fraction is equivalent to 1/4. 3/4 or 1/4 from 1/2. And the 1/2 is equal to 2/4. So 3/4 are greater than 1/2. So 3/8 are less than 1/2. 3/4 are greater than 1/2. So that right there, if the kids just know that, if they just know 1/2, then they can fix this. They can solve this problem right here. Okay. So we want them to be able to justify the reasoning and talk it through, but illustrations and those representations that they can draw, those is so important. So part of their justification could be a model where they create a fraction model that looks like this. And we want to make sure that we're spending time on those linear fraction models, because they build to number lines, which build to rulers, and which build to all these things that our kids struggle with, because these are the pieces that our kids are missing. So we know that 3/8 is less than 3/4. This is the language that we should expect from our kids. 1/8 is less than 1/4. So 3/8 is less than 3/4. That's one way. 3/8 are less than 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4 are greater than 1/2. So 3/4 are greater than 3/8. That's the language. Now, our kids may not be ready for that the first time we give this to them, especially if they aren't used to talking. We have to create sentence stems and create things that help scaffold them through this type of thinking. And it's not going to happen overnight. This is a marathon. And so the sooner we start getting them talking, the sooner they can do it. Okay, so here's another example where we know that 1/8 is less than 1/6, because we see that our numerators are the same. Now, this is a skill that they learn in 3rd grade. Numerators are the same. My unit fraction is an 1/8 and it's a 1/6. Since 1/6 is greater than 1/8, then 5/6 are greater than 5/8, because it looks like I'm taking my smaller fractions, putting those together, larger fractions, putting those together, and then comparing them. They have to explore. Okay, and here's another one. And this becomes fourth grade when we are in the state of Texas, and I think it's probably fifth with Common Core, where nothing's the same, but they can still apply the same level of understanding and a level of thinking. Because if I can ask, if they can answer, well, what's a half? Okay, so what's a half? What is, how does this compare to one whole? Those are the questions that we need them asking themselves and determining when those strategies are best to use. So here's a model. 1/8 is greater than 1/10. 5/8 is 1/8 more than 1/2. 6/10 is 1/10 more than 1/2. Okay, so look at these. So if we're looking just at a half, so 5/8 are closer to a whole than 6/10. Just because we know about the unit fraction, we're comparing this part to this part. The kids need to have those exploration time. Okay.